Alrighty, what's going on, my powerlifting people? Thank you for tuning in to another live stream. We are going over day 6 of the IPF Classic Powerlifting Worlds. It was another 3-session day, so there's quite a bit to go over. And it was the end of the sub-juniors and juniors. They're having their banquet right now, and tomorrow it starts the open. So I'll switch over to my computer and we'll get into it right away so that we don't, make the stream too long. So as usual, the links are down in the description below to get this Goodlift website, the IPF website, and the IPF YouTube live stream. And I'll also, as usual, throw this in the chat just so that you all have access to it directly to this page in the chat as well as the description. So when you come here, as usual, you got the timetable. Let's open that up, go over where we are as far as day 6. So we're right here on Tuesday. For the juniors, we had the 83s on one platform and the 93s and 105s on another platform. For the middle session, we had the rest of the sub-junior women, 76 and up, and the rest of the junior women, 69 and up. And then in the afternoon session, you had the rest of the sub-juniors, 93 and up for the men's side, and juniors, 120 and up. So, big day here as far as finishing off all the sub-junior and juniors, figuring out the team awards, the best lift awards, everything like that. So what we will do is kind of like last time we went over the men's first. It was only one session and did all the women. Let's do the women first since it's just one session, and then we can go over all the men. So let's start with the women's sub-junior 76 and up. So if we come back here, we go to the women's score sheet. Sub-juniors are going to be the first one. So we're going to go 76 and up. So, not much going on as far as those weight classes. A few lifters competing in the 76s here. You can see that there wasn't too much going on as far as, the first place person got gold in the squat, gold in the bench press, and then got the silver in the deadlift, and then gold overall pretty easily. So not too much of a battle here, with how big this lifter Elise from Estonia's squat was. And then, got a little bit more on bench press because this lifter was only able to go 1 for 3. And then just, cruised to the victory on deadlift. This lifter did take some big jumps, like, going up 12 and a half and then going up 20. And, they didn't need that for the medal. So I wonder what they were going for as far as maybe some kind of record for Russia or, who knows. But, if this person, once this lifter at least hit 170 and you're sitting at 157, you're thinking, okay, right now I got the silver in the deadlift. They have the gold, so I should do 172.5 in order to get the gold. So not sure why they chose 177, but they did work out for them. They got the gold. Going into the 84s, again, another one, not much going on here as far as, this lifter got Tatiana from Russia, got, gold in the squat, gold in the bench press, and then did what they needed, got the bronze in the deadlift, but still got the gold overall by 25 kilos. And then unfortunately, this lifter, Cassandra from Sweden, bombed down on squat. I was not able to watch the squats to see what the issue was, see if it's a depth issue or whatever. But then they also only got one bench press in, so a little bit of a tough day for them. And the downside to that also, as you can see here, which is an interesting scenario, and I'm going to go over a question for you all as well with this, is you can see they got the gold on deadlift and this 196.5, which show that this is a record, a world record. So we can go and look it up real quick. If you go over here to records, and then let's go over to world records, and then you go to women's. You can go here to classic. Here we can go to sub juniors. This was the 84 kilo class. So we come down to 84s. We look at the deadlift and it was 196. So they were chipping at 196.5. But since they did not produce a total, okay, they didn't get a squat, their total is 0, they can't get this deadlift world record. This deadlift world record is done in a full meet. So is this bench press, so is a squat. You need to have a total. You got to have at least one lift, good lift in each of the disciplines. Only this bench press single lift can be done without a squat and deadlift. So they don't get this record. The interesting scenario is, are they still allowed to chip that record? I didn't get a chance to go look through the rule book again, word for word, what it states and whether this is allowed or not. But, I understand the rule and I agree that you can't get the world record. Okay, so they're not going to get the world record. The question is, are they still allowed to take that attempt in order to go for a individual medal in the deadlift? So can they still chip that record and not receive the record, but use it to get the gold medal in the deadlift? Now they didn't need it. They could have just done 195 and they could have just done 202.5. But I wonder, because how often does this situation occur where a lifter bombs out, but they're able to chip a record, where they're allowed to chip the record for the placing. So the reason why I would say yes, they can do it would be that if you don't allow them to do it, the other lifters in the session have an unfair advantage over them. So if these lifters are allowed to chip and they're not allowed to chip, then they're at a disadvantage. So typically that's not allowed. You want to be fair for everyone in that that's competing against each other, that everyone is able to attempt the same weights. They have the ability to do it. So this is, in that case, I would allow them to chip it, but you don't get the record. So interesting scenario there. I have to check out the rule book and see what exactly it says. And I seem like maybe they were a little confused what was going on at that point, making sure it was a record. Are they allowed to do it and stuff like that? So it'll be interesting to see what the technical chairman's thoughts are on that. And then the 84 plus, you just had one lifter here. Looks like it's from Lithuania. You know, they got 3 squats in, 1 bench, 3 deadlifts, cruise to the victory. As far as the points, you can see you have Russia, this is the Russian Olympic Committee, since they're not allowed to represent Russia by name. They got 5 golds, which is the max you can get, so they got a perfect 60 point score. And then it's a little bit of a drop down there to Ukraine with 30 points, and then Lithuania with 21 points. Then for the best lifters, you have Anna Bardova from Russia that got the best lifter award, 97.9 points. And then Luis from Ireland, and then Alina also from Russia. So Russia gets first and third in the best lifters and also gets first in the team points for the sub-juniors. So that covers all our sub-junior women. Let's now go over to the junior women, 69 kilos and up. So we come back to our score sheet right below the sub-juniors and juniors. So let's go to the 69 kilo class. And that was a interesting battle there for, 3 of the top lifters, which would be Agnes from Sweden, Clara from France, and Amira from Spain. So going with the squat, you can see, fairly tight pack here, 157, 160, 170. And then you can see on the seconds, still tight, 167, 167, 177. And then Clara ends up missing 170. So she doesn't lose out on much, 2.5 kilos. Amira ends up missing out on 172, so she misses out on 5 kilos. And then Agnes was able to go 3 for 3, execute, and get 180.5 for the world record. And that chip also helps. Here she weighs 67.68. Clara weighs less than her, 67.64. So in a situation where it comes down to the very end, and if they tied on total, Clara would win by body weight. So it's beneficial to have that chip to take 180.5 instead of 180. So now the lifter can't tie you unless they can chip a bench or deadlift record, which end up happening. But let's say in this scenario you can't, you don't have the ability to chip the bench or deadlift because your strength is not there. Then you have to beat them by, got to go 2.5 kilos more and beat them by a full 2 kilos rather than tying them on body weight because of that chip. So that's a beneficial thing, that not only did they go 3 for 3 and they got, these 3 kilos here, whereas these lifters missed out, but they also were able to pick up that chip. Then we go over to bench press. You see it's another tight pack here. Amira with 102, Clara with 102, Agnes with 110. And then Amira here misses 107, Clara misses 107, and Agnes misses 115. So interesting that all 3 of them end up missing their seconds. And then also interesting that Amira was not able to come back and get the 107, which is typical. If you miss an attempt, especially for raw lifting, it's very unlikely that you'll come back and make that attempt. That it's, unless it's some kind of technical issue, you jump the rack command or something like that, it's very difficult on a strength issue to come back and execute and fix your technique or something like that. So she misses out on possibly 5 kilos there by missing the second and third. Clara ends up coming back. I didn't see the second, but the third looked good. So I'm not sure what happened on the second attempt, if it was maybe like, butt came up a little bit or, jumped the command or something, but she's able to come back and execute, which is beneficial because, Clara and Amira were tied here on squats. And then, they're about to be tied if they both missed again on bench press, but she picked up this 107 to get a 5 kilo boost on subtotal over Amira. And then Agnes goes up from 115 to 115.5. So not sure what the issue was 115. Could have just been a technical thing, but she went up to 115.5 and got the record. Let's take a look real quick at the junior 69s to see what the record is. So we go to junior bench press 69. So actually the 115 is a standard. So this wasn't actually marked there, but this, or maybe it's because they missed, but this was a world record attempt. If it's a standard, okay, so this says world standard, no one actually holds this record. They just don't leave the record empty because then everyone can chip at, 25.5 kilos or, 55.5 kilos. So you want to put as a standard so no one can just chip it. You have to get up to that level. But when it's a standard like this 75 and this 115, you only have to hit that standard. You don't have to beat the standard. Since no one actually holds this record, all you have to do is do 115, which is the standard, and you're able to obtain that world record. Versus if it's a record held by someone, like Carola Gara here with 133, you have to beat that record. So you have to do 133.5. You can't do 133 and tie someone's record. So in this case, the standard was at 115. So this was actually a record attempt. And for whatever reason, they ended up going up to 115.5. And they're able to execute, get the world record, got gold in the squat, gold on the bench. Good position to be in going into deadlifts. Now, deadlifts, a little bit more of a gap here. So you can see Agnes now has the lowest deadlift at 180. Amira is at 195. And Clara opened up with the world record, 206.5. So if we go look at 69 kilo deadlift, you can see it was actually her record at 205. So again, not sure exactly what the 206.5 was. Maybe if we counted out the math, it's based on this chip and this chip. So that is half a kilo plus half a kilo is 1 kilo. So maybe they went up 1.5 kilos to 206.5. I didn't run the math on that, but that could be potentially why. So that they can catch up and tie. And again, beat on body weight by that, 67.68 versus 67.64. So it's not always just, oh, let me just chip and go half a kilo. It's also looking at what your competitor is doing. So at this point, they may have looked, okay, they got half a kilo there, they got half a kilo there. So let's get 1.5 kilos here. So opening up with the world record, I didn't see how easy or difficult that was. I didn't get to watch it. Then we go and we see, Agnes takes a 7.5 kilo jump, makes 187.5. Amira makes a 10 kilo jump to try and gain some ground and makes 205. And then Clara at that point was in first because she has, such a big deadlift. So she takes a smaller jump in order to defend the lead. Okay, so if you have a gap of, let's say, your lead of 10 kilos, you can try and just take a smaller jump and bring your gap or your lead down to 7.5 kilos or even 5 kilos, rather than trying to maintain that 10 kilo lead or trying to increase it 12.5 or 15. It's like if you're running a race and, you're 20 feet ahead of the person, you don't have to try and turn your 20-foot lead into a 25 or 30-foot lead and try and push the gas and, gas yourself out. You can just continue at a pace that you feel like you can handle. The person catches up, 15 feet, 10 feet, 8 feet, 7 feet, you can still win. So that's what they were trying to do, is they went up to 211. Unfortunately, they missed. I believe this one got past the knees and just couldn't quite get the hips through and shoulders back. So unfortunately, now she's in a tight spot. So at this point, it's okay, now what can these lifters do? Who can go and make an attempt and put the pressure on these lifters? Because if Clara had made this attempt, she would have gotten 4.5 kilos, which would have given her 486. So she would have been sitting in the lead going into thirds, which is in a great position, and you have the biggest deadlift. And so that would have been a good position that if these lifters missed, you take the win. Unfortunately, she missed. So now she's dropped down into second, and now Agnes is in a position where she's in the lead, and then all she has to do is try and put more pressure on them if possible. So I'm not sure how difficult this 7.5 kilo jump was, but they played it conservative and only took a 5 kilo jump to just pad the total a little bit more, put the pressure on these lifters. Amira would have to have taken a big jump, and then Claire would have to actually gone up off of a miss. So that's quite a bit of pressure there that they would have put on them if they made it. They end up missing the 192. So Claire then tries to go and retake that lift to try and boost up her total to 496 to pull for the win. Now it's going to be more than what she needed because she already had taken that jump. At that point, you can't go back down. What she actually needed was 2 kilos more. So all she needed was 208.5, looks like. If I'm doing my math correctly, she only needed 208.5. But at that point, she didn't know what was going to happen as far as like lifters missing their thirds. So, she could have potentially played at the minimum amount of safety and gone from 206.5 to 208.5. And if she had gotten that, then she would have been at 483.5. But at that point, too, Agnes may have only gone to 190 instead of 192.5 to bump back into the lead. So you never know after the fact. We're like, Monday morning quarterbacking over here and seeing what you would do. But, they played it fairly safe here as far as the jump. But I'm not sure how easy the first one was to see how safe of an opener that was. But unfortunately, she ended up missing this one again. So now she's stuck in, second place being the highest. And then, potential of falling more because now Amira's like, okay, let's just go for broke and let's pull 9 kilos more. So from 205 to 214, okay, would get her to 484. Okay, so then because she weighs the heaviest of the three, 68.22, so she was trying to get to 484 and pull for the win. So in this case, she wasn't trying to pull for second place, which she could have done by getting a 482, so 7 kilos. So she could have done 212 to get the silver medal or 214 to get the gold medal. So kind of like I've talked in previous days multiple times about this, is you have to know what your goals are, your priorities going in. Are you going to go for the gold medal no matter what? Or are you willing to take a podium spot if the opportunity is there? And if you are already in a podium spot, would you rather defend your podium spot from the people from 4th, 5th trying to catch you? Or would you rather try and go for gold and maybe lose your podium spot if people backdoor you? So in this case, they decided to go for gold rather than trying to move from bronze to silver. So maybe they didn't care so much. Okay, going for bronze, silver, not a big deal. Let's go be a world champion. So they try to take that 9 kilo jump. Unfortunately, it wasn't there for her either. So all three of them missed their thirds. And Agnes becomes your champion. And, she makes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attempts and wins, versus Clara makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts, gets silver, and Amira makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts and gets the bronze. So again, you can see, especially here on squat, it was very important for her to make 3 attempts and pick up those 3 kilos, as you can see how close it came. And then also being able to, both these lifters, Clara coming back off a miss and making the bench, and Agnes coming back and making it off of a miss, really helped them to get the gap over Amira, who ended up missing 2 benches and then had to go for kind of this Hail Mary here, the 214, to pull for a win. So it's important to make your attempts and collect all those kilos that you can get, because if those other lifters are leaving 2.5 kilos here, 5 kilos there, that's going to help you, give you that little bit of buffer, so that then if everyone misses, then you're in the lead. So quite the battle there for the 69 kilo class. And unfortunately, you had this lifter from Canada, Fav Bell, who bombed out on squat, did 1 bench press, but able to take a big jump here, going from 182 on the opener to 195 on third to steal the bronze medal in the Delts. At least they're able to get a medal in the deadlift. You had a lifter here, Valeria, who was able to get a medal in the bench press, ending up in 5th place. So good on them to come away with something, even though they're not in the top 3 as far as the total. For the 76s, you had another battle as well. And it was actually a closer battle because initially Vilma Olsen had a lower opener in. I'm not sure if her squat or bench for lower, but she definitely had a lower deadlift, and I believe it was like 165. So it threw it off the projection. So that's something to be mindful of when you go to these bigger level meets, is you need to you don't have to do like super detailed background on all these lifters and watch all their training videos on Instagram and, keep track of all their body weight and everything like that. But it's good to go look at, their open IPF or wherever you're looking, their database, to see what their numbers are. What do they normally open up with? What are their PRs? What did they hit at their last meet or at nationals? And then go see what their openers are in the competition. If you knew that, Vilma is like, let's say a 200 plus kilo puller, but she's listing 195, you're like, okay, either she's injured or it's a fake number. And then what do you know? After bench press, she bumps it up to 187.5. And so it threw people off in the projection, looking like, she's going to be sub 500. And then boom, she throws up that, change. And all of a sudden she's projected first. So going into the squat real quick, you can see here Vilma opened up with the world record. So let's take a look real quick. 76 juniors on squat. It was actually her record at 190.5. And so she actually opened up 195.5, so 5 kilos above that. Then she went up to 204, which actually did misload to one side. And the coach, Carolina, actually caught it while Vilma was like going under the bar. She like ran up there and like pointed at they're missing the 2.5 kilo plate. And so she had to walk off, put the plate back on, and then go out there and still execute it and got it. And then try to do 210.5. And I believe that was called 2-to-1 on depth, one in the head chair and one on the left side. I believe this one was also called for 1 red for depth on the left side. But she was able to come away with the world record, bump up her world record quite a bit. This lifter, Agata Stitko, got silver with 1 squat. And then down here, Dinara from Russia ended up going 3 for 3 in the squats, getting the bronze medal. Going into the bench press, again, you see another opening world record here for the 76 kilo class. These are the newer weight classes, and they shifted some of the records up. So you're going to see some of these records being broken early on. So if we go look at the bench press real quick for 76s, you can see it was 118.5 for Chloe. And again, you can see here how it was a 71.70 body weight, because this was when it was the 72 kilo class. So they took the 72 kilo world record and shifted up to the 76 kilo world record when they switched those weight classes. So this is obviously done a lighter body weight. So that's why you're going to see some of these records being broken. So 118.5 was the record. She opens up with 120 and then bumps up to 125.5 and then missed out on the 128.5. So she ended up with the gold. Vilma, 3 for 3, cruised into the silver. And then Isabel here from Norway, 3 for 3 and gets the bronze in the bench press. And then we have, like I said, that change in the opener. I don't know if Agata switched hers, but Vilma switched hers. But interesting enough, they both missed. So Vilma lost her balance a little bit at the top. So she pulled it fine. But sometimes for sumo lifters, if you just get your balance off or if the weight's too fast, so she locked it out and drifted forward a little bit and then went back again. And so they called her on that, downward motion. And then Agata, it seemed like she had more of a balance issue because once it was getting to the knees, it just seemed like she just started drifting forward. The bar started going forward. She started going forward and she just lost it. So pretty interesting situation there. And then what Vilma does, because, it was a very minor balance issue. And sometimes going up a little bit of weight on sumo can help with that balance issue because it slows you down going into lockout. And then the other thing is she wanted to most likely be the last puller or last among the top people to make sure that she can see her competitor. So Vilma has a lot number of 20 and Agata has a lot number of 19. And actually Isabel has a lot number 18. So the lower lot number gets to weigh in first, but the lower lot number has to take the weight first if it's the same weight. So in this case, Isabel would take 190 first, then Agata would take 190, and then Vilma gets to take 190. So she can see what her competitor's pull looks like and what attempt they put on next, and then she can go and pull and make her number based off of that. So Isabel pulls the 190, puts in 200. Agata pulls the 190, puts in 202. And then Vilma pulls the 190. And I think initially she put in something big like 220 or 225. And then after Agata pulls the 202, she's not chasing her for the overall because it was she was around 517 for her total off the second attempt. So at that point, she had locked in the win. So she just dropped down to 202.5 to pull after her to go for the gold in the deadlift because she weighed in lighter. She weighed in 72.38. Agata weighed in 75.66. So she just pulled for the deadlift medal. So the deadlift medal went 1, 2, 3, just like the placing went 1, 2, 3. So interesting little battle there. Some world records broken in the squat and the bench press. Some little games played there as far as changing the opener attempts. In the 84s, another good battle here. If we just look at the ending totals real quick, you'll see 47, 42, and 480. So quite the battle there for top 3. Again, making attempts is important here. So if we start with the squat, this lifter who won, Giada from Italy, ended up having the first squat of the top three. So she went 167.5, then Marianne went 180, and then Hannah went 180. Then you can see, Marianne must have started light and felt confident. She took a 10-kilo jump. Hannah must have, started maybe a little bit too heavy, not so confident, only took a 5-kilo jump. So the order then switches. Giada takes 175, makes it. Hannah takes 185, makes it. And then Marianne takes 190 and makes it. And again, maybe opening up heavy, or that's just a style, smaller jumps for Finland, because you can see only a 2-kilo jump. So Hannah only goes 5 and then 2. Marianne instead goes 10 and then 5. So she's gaining more kilos from the opener to the third attempt. And then Giada's right kind of in the middle, 7.5 and then 5. So they end up all going 3 for 3 in the squat. And even the fourth place lifter goes 3 for 3 in the squat. So that's really good for that group, for all of them to make their attempts. But the difference here is that Giada, goes 12.5 kilos across, whereas Marianne goes 15 kilos across, and then Hannah only goes 7.5 kilos across. So Marianne's building momentum, gaining those kilos, and gold medal in the squat. Then we go into the bench press, and Marianne opens first with 80, Hannah 87.5, and Giada's got the big bench 100. Then, you can see here, more moderate and even jumps here for all three lifters. When it comes to bench press, it's a lower max. So you're going to take smaller jumps because it's going to be a similar percentage-wise, taking 7.5 or 10 here versus taking 5 or 2.5 here. So you can see Marianne goes 5 and then 2, makes all 3. Hannah takes 5 and then 2 and misses her third, which is key because now she lost down 2.5 kilos that Marianne got. And then Giada takes 5 and 2, makes all 3. And so she's in a good spot as well, getting gold in the bench press. Then we go into deadlifts, and that's where things get interesting again, because Marianne opens up light and then takes the big jump. So she opens up at 180, jumps 12.5 to 192, versus Giada opens up at 190, takes a 10-kilo jump, and Hannah opens up at 190 and takes a 10-kilo jump. So if we, for example, if we look at first versus second here, Marianne's up 15 kilos, and then she loses 20 kilos here, so she's down 5. And then she loses 10 here, so she's down 15. So Giada's in a good spot there, being up 15 kilos going into second attempts. If we compare second to third, here, Marianne's got a 7.5 kilo lead. And then here, she loses 5. So now she has a 2.5 kilo lead. And then she loses 10 here. So now she down 7.5. So she's got to make some ground, being down to both lifters after the opening deadlift, which is part of the reason why taking these bigger jumps, and part of the reason why it's important to make attempts. So we come now here, and you can see Marianne makes 192, and then she takes a 7.5 kilo jump. Then you have Giada take 200 and put in 205, and then Hannah takes 200 and puts in 210. So at this point, Marianne's actually at 475, and then Giada's at 487, and Hannah's at 480. So you can see again, Marianne is behind, and she's got to make some ground. So she has to make attempts, or in this case, make the third attempt and put pressure on the first and second place person, whether she wants to go after both of them or only one of them. In this case, again, you have to decide, do you want to pull big, go for first? In that case, Marianne is the heavier lifter, so she would have had to have done 490 to get into the gold medal position total, which would have been another 7.5 kilos. So she would have to pull 207 at minimum to get into the gold medal position, and then see what the other lifters do. So that they may have felt like that was too much, going up 12.5 and then 15 kilos. On the flip side, you can see here she weighs more than Hannah from Finland, so she would have had to take then this 7.5 kilo jump to move from third to the silver medal position, and then see what Hannah does. So at that point, you have to decide what your goals are, what's the risk and reward of going for big and falling into the bronze medal, or taking the more moderate and going for the silver medal. So they end up taking the more moderate approach, taking a 7.5 kilo jump that hit the 200, get into the silver medal. So at that point, it's between Giada and Hannah now what they want to do. So Giada has to worry about, okay, Marianne's not catching her anymore. She's done for the day, but Hannah can still catch her with a big pull. So if she takes a smaller jump, she can bump her total up a little bit more and put more pressure on Henna to have to take a big pull or not even attempt it. She ends up missing it. So now she's at 487, Marianne's at 482, and Henna's at 480. And so she can decide, because she's the last puller, on 480, you only need 2.5 kilos to get back to silver. So you only need 202 to get back to silver, or you go 210 and try and pull for first. And if she wanted to try the 202, she would have to have gone earlier because Giada was doing the 205. So at that point, once she waited for Giada to miss, the lowest she could have done is 205. So she could have done 205 for silver medal or 210 for gold medal. She ended up going 210 for the gold medal, missed it. And so by risking going for the gold medal, she ended up in the bronze medal, where she could have taken the 202 early or 205 at the very end and been able to get the silver medal back. So nice little battle there. But again, why I say the attempts are important is because Henna went 7 for 9 and had to pull big for gold, and Marianne went 9 for 9. So Marianne made all her lifts and put the pressure on Henna from Finland to decide what she wants to do. And for her going too aggressive, she ended up losing. Whereas if she had made this, okay, then she also would have been at 42 and she would have been at the silver medal, which means at that point, Marianne would have to have gone 202.5 for her third just to get the silver. Maybe she wouldn't have attempted 202.5. Maybe she would have attempted it and missed it. And at that point, you would have had the silver locked up, and then you could have gone and shot for gold. And you would need less for that gold because you would have gotten 2.5 kilos more on bench. You would have needed 2.5 kilos less on deadlift. So at that point, you could have gone 207.5 and potentially won gold. So important to make attempts and maximize your total. Maximize each lift, get as many kilos as you can. Hope that other people miss and they miss out on the kilos. And then, especially when it's a tight battle like this, and then I'll help you on the end where you don't have to pull as much on deadlift because you gained as much as you could on squat and bench press. So Marianne gained as much as she could on squat and bench press, and then it was able to take more conservative numbers on deadlift to get the silver medal. As far as team points here, you can see Italy won, 52 points. Great on them. Then you have a little bit of drop to Sweden at 41 and France at 40. And then for the best lifters, you can see here, Italy went 1 and 2 with Chiara and Sarah, and then Jade from France, number 3. And like we mentioned, I believe it was yesterday at 111, it's very high GO points, and 505.5 at 63 kilo class, very high as well. I believe 4th all time, regardless of age division. So really good day for the women, especially for the juniors. A lot of world records, a lot of battles and everything like that, and a lot more depth here on the junior side, a little bit less on the sub junior side. It could just have been an off year, but we'll also see if this gets more depth, or maybe some of these lifters age up into the juniors and make this even more competitive. So that's all the women. So we'll go over to men next. Just take a little bit of a water break. Let's check out the stream, make sure everything's going well. Looks like this is going to be a longer stream with all these battles to go over. So let's go now into, let's do our sub juniors next. So let's do this one right here. Sub juniors 93 and up. So we'll come back here, pull up the men's score sheet. Sub junior 93 and up. All right, sub juniors right here. So 93s, we had 6 lifters battling it out, and there was a battle between first and second. Interestingly enough here, this lifter, Malik from France, not sure what happened, if it was a depth issue, misses the opener, 267.5, misses again on the second. Now you have to get 103rd just to stay in the meet. So this is all or nothing. They end up getting it, which was a continental record, and they got the gold medal in the squat, and obviously helped them at the end, as we can see, because they finished silver overall. So quite the stress right there to stay in the meet, get a continental record, get a gold medal in the lift, and stay in the battle for the podium. Then we go into bench press, and he opens up with the world record bench press right here, 180 kilos. Then on second attempts, this lifter Sousa from Hungary goes 182.5. Didn't even try and chip it. 182.5 gets the record. And then Malik, again, didn't chip it, just goes 185 for the record. Then on the third attempt, for whatever reason, Sousa decides at that point, okay, let's chip it. Decides on 185, 187. Not sure why they didn't choose 185.5 or 188. Decide 187, and then and they get it, and then Malik tries to do 187.5 for the record, and they end up missing. So nice little battle there for the world record. Sousa ends up with the world record 187 and the gold medal. Malik gets the silver, and then the lifter who won, Jack Hopkins from Great Britain, ends up with bronze at 180. Then we go into deadlifts, and Sousa, who's got the biggest squat, unfortunately has the weaker deadlift of the three, so he can't quite keep up, and you can see ends up with 702. So then it becomes a battle for the top two right here. So Malik got 10 kilos on squat over Jack, and got 5 kilos on bench over Jack. So now he's up 15 kilos, but Jack opens up 20 kilos more than him. So he gains all that back and 5 kilos, and he's the lighter lifter. So he's up 5 kilos now. So Malik takes a 20 kilo jump. So in that case, Jack doesn't need to take a 20 kilo jump because he already has that 5 kilo padding. So he ends up taking a 15.5 kilo jump because he's going for a world record there. So he's picking up the chip, even though he doesn't really need it because he weighs lighter than everyone right there. And, Malik didn't get the chip in the bench press. So he takes a 15.5 kilo jump versus the 20 kilo jump that Malik takes. They both make it. At that point, Malik takes a 16 kilo jump to go for the world record and obviously for placing. And then Jack takes a 9.5 kilo jump for the world record and obviously placing. But, again, here becomes your strategy. When you're on the outside, so you're behind, Malik is in second place, and they weigh heavier, so they have to go for the outright win, is how big of a jump do you take? Do you take the minimum amount needed to put yourself in position and then wait and see what your competitor does? Or do you push it more and more so that you put more pressure on your competitor more and more to have to pull more? The downside to that second method is that the more and more you go, the closer and closer you are to missing a lift, and at that point it's over. So at least if you take the minimum amount and you make it, you're still in the game, and you're putting pressure on your competitor now to go out there and have to make an attempt with all the pressure on and be able to execute. Versus if you go too close to the sun, you could burn and then game over. So in this case, if we backtrack it, so Jack is at 747.5 for his ending, but he took a 9.5 kilo jump. So Jack is at 738 and Malik is at 737.5. So Jack is only half a kilo ahead. Okay, and he weighs lighter. So all you need is 740 if you're Malik. So the minimum you needed was 287.5 to put yourself in the position of the gold medal, and then see what Jack can do, because then Jack has to go and pull a few kilos more. So he would have to pull 2 kilos more, so he would have to done 302.5. So if you do 287.5, then your competitor has to do 302.5. So that would be the minimum amount to put yourself in first place and then make your competitor have to make another lift. So not sure why they didn't do that, or why didn't they take a more moderate approach. You could have gone 292. You could have gone 295. If you had gone 295, then you would have been at 747.5. And obviously you didn't know. Jack didn't know he can do this. But then Jack would have had to have pulled this 310. There's a difference pulling 310 for the world record when there's no pressure. You already have to win. Versus pulling 310 for the world record with everything on the line for the world championship. So potentially if you had done 295, you would have put enough pressure on him to miss. Or if you got 297.5, now they have to go up even more beyond this, put pressure on the miss. But for whatever reason, they decided to pick 301 and went too aggressive. They missed, and at that point, it's game over. Malik is second. Jack is already first on the second. He can do whatever he wants on the third. He ended up going 310, getting the world record total, gold medal in the deadlift, got it all. So interesting little battle there. And again, making attempts is important. If this was a depth issue and not a strength issue, but Malik, if he had been training, and if it was a weight cutting issue, 92.82, we don't know what the issue is, but if possibility, if your weight was on point, you're trained to depth in the gym, and you were prepared for the competition, may have been able to get more than just your opener here on squat, which would have really helped you here when it came to the deadlift. And even on the bench press, doing a 5 kilo and then a 2.5 kilo jump at that kind of weight, 180, it's a little bit, of a small jump. You may have wanted to like open up with, 175 and then go 185 and then 190 if you thought it was there, or maybe you go 175 and then let's say like 182.5 and then 187. So it saves some energy on the opening attempt and the second attempt, and also allows you that if you can't take a big of a jump, you have some space to go down. So at that point, if he had done 182, maybe he could have gotten 185.5, or maybe, gotten 187.5 with a little bit of conserving energy on the second attempt, which would have helped at the end. Going into the 105s, not too much going on there. Ivan from Russia, kind of cruised, gold in squat, 3 for 3, silver and bench 3 for 3, and gold in deadlift 3 for 3, and won by about 60 kilos. Hermani from Finland, 3 for 3 in the squat, 2 for 3 in the bench press, gets the gold medal, and then cruises 3 for 3 in the deadlift, silver medal, and deadlift and silver medal overall, and kind of a 40 kilo lead above Maxim from Ukraine, who did miss a decent amount of attempts, but again, he was strong enough. Missed his third squat, missed his third bench, missed his second deadlift, and then passed on his third deadlift. So not too much going on there. So we'll go down to the 120s where we had 3 lifters battling it out. This one wasn't very close either. You can see Christian from Poland, 3 for 3 on squat with the world record at the very end. Got 1 bench in to stay in the meet, and then, got 2 deadlifts in for the gold medal, and then gold medal overall easily by, 55 kilos. And then Ivan from Bulgaria looks like, got 1 squat to stay in the meet, opened up with the world record bench press, bumped up more and more on second and third, and then got 2 deadlifts in to get the silver and deadlift in total. And then this lifter, Lucas from Finland, got the silver in the squat, and then bronze in bench, deadlift in total. Then we go to 120 plus. This one was a little of a battle as well to the end for the top 3 between Bartholomew, Imran, and Artem from Poland, Turkey, and Russia. You can see here Imran had the lower squat, but all 3 went 3 for 3. Bartholomew gets 25 kilos from first to third. Imran gets 35 kilos from first to third. And then Artem gets 20 kilos from first to third. So Imran, even though it opened up lighter, took some bigger jumps, was able to gain some ground. And then at that point, he's only 10 kilos behind Bartholomew and 20 kilos behind Artem. Then we go into bench press. Does open up lighter again, 155, but he was able to go 3 for 3 and gain 15 kilos. Bartholomew only was able to go 2 for 3 and only gain 5 kilos, so maybe opened it a little bit too heavy there. And Artem was able to go 3 for 3 and able to gain 15 kilos there. And it kind of flipped, gold for Artem, silver for Imran, bronze for Bartholomew. And then unfortunately, Artem had a weaker bench press here, weaker deadlift, 235 versus Imran's 265 and Bartholomew's 280. So at that point, he's on the outside looking in and trying to gain some ground. You can see, he goes up 7.5 kilos, kind of maybe stay with the pack, and then tries to make his move 17.5 kilos to bump himself up here, but was unable to do so. And, it must have been too much for him to try and go for gold. He would have needed 22.5, so we needed 265. So he tried to, go 260, and even then he didn't need 260. He needed 15 kilos, so he only needed 257.5. So I'm not sure why he decided on the 260, if that was an error or something like that, or maybe just trying to put more pressure, thinking that Imran would make their third, so they try to put more pressure on him. But they end up missing the 260, so they're stuck in third at that point. Then Imran thinks there's a chance because Bartholomew misses his second and then misses his third. So at that point, he only needs, since he's a lighter lifter, he only needs 10 kilos. He only needs 290. And he waited afterwards So, Bartolomeo's got a lot number 24. Imran's got a lot number 23. So as soon as this 290 occurs, Imran cannot go to 290, but he can go to 292.5. So not sure why he loaded up 300.5. Like at that point, you want to make your change. I understand, trying to go for 300.5 if Bartolomeo makes to 290, because then he's at 755 and you need 20 kilos, so you can go 300. And at that point, maybe they wanted to go 300.5 for the record and win. But he missed. You only need 10 kilos. You only need 290. So not sure what happened there. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything. I don't see any kind of anything else going on. It seems like maybe they just, either they put in their 2 changes already and they couldn't change it again and they were stuck there, or maybe they didn't have time to put in the change after this 290. Everyone else is less. So they're loading up your 300.5. You got to go over there fast. You got to put in the change and change it to 292.5. So not sure what happened there, but looks like there was some kind of mistake there that costed them the championship. So tough spot there for Imran and Turkey. So I'm going to check out the stream again real quick. See if everything is good before we move on. Looks like everything is going well. So we are done with the sub-juniors, the team points. You got Russia, 53 points, Poland, 43, Finland, 35. So decent gaps there. And then the best lifters, you got Jack Hopkins from Great Britain, 99 points. Malik from France, 96. And Tio from Croatia, 95. So interesting situation there as far as Jack and Malik. If we come back up here real quick. Jack and Malik go 1 and 2 in the 93s and also go 1 and 2 in the best lifters. So let's go into the juniors now. So it's going to be 83s and up for the juniors. So we had a battle in the 83 juniors for the top 2. So you can see right here for the final numbers, 747.5 and 745. So it came down to 2.5 kilos between Edoardo from Italy and Adam from Canada. And pretty close body weight, 82.02 and 82.08. So whenever you want to weigh in, you want to try and weigh in as little as close as possible. Go nude if you want. Take the socks off. Take any jewelry off. Anything, any glasses, whatever you can do to weigh as light as possible, because you never know, it can come down to, just a couple grams making the difference between whether you're a world champion or not, because whether you can just tie and win on body weight or if you have to go up 2.5 kilos more. And you can see on squat as a tight battle. Adam opened up with 252, Edoardo 255. And then, Edoardo takes a little bit of a bigger jump here and a little bit of a bigger jump here from second to third. So they both go 3 for 3. But Adam picks up 17.5. And, yep, just double checking that. And then Edoardo picks up 27.5. So he gains a little bit of a ground there. And you can see he's up 12.5 kilos after a squat. Then we go into bench press. Adam's got a big bench here. And then, he misses the second, but fortunately was able to come back and get his third. So he gains only 7.5 there. Versus Edoardo has the lighter bench, but he goes 3 for 3. He's ended up picking up 12.5 kilos there. So he covers some of that gap a little bit. Then we go into deadlifts and they have similar deadlifts. Adam opens up with 280, Edoardo with 285. Okay, so that puts Adam at 735 and puts Edoardo at, if we subtract out 17, 730. So at that point, Edoardo is behind and he needs to gain some ground and he's the heavier lifter. So he's in a tight spot there. So he tries to gain some ground, which, Adam takes a 10 kilo jump. So then Edoardo gets to watch that attempt and watch that attempt be put in for the second. So he takes a 17.5 kilo jump to make up that difference. Okay. So since he was behind 5 kilos and he was the heavier lifter, he goes up 17.5 kilos to then put him in position where now he's in first place after second attempt. So you can see that because, they both missed. Adam's at 745, Edero's at 747. So at that point, it's like, what can Adam do to put the pressure on Ederado to have to pull another attempt? So, they thought there were 7.5 kilos there. Unfortunately, he missed. Who knows if he had gotten, maybe 295 or even 292.5, whether Ederado had a 305 or 307.5 in him. I don't know if he attempted his 312.5, but if he did and he ended up missing, then, he didn't have necessarily that much more in him. So who knows if 305 or 307.5 was there. But at that point, you miss your second attempt bench and you have to come back and get it. And that's your best lift. And then when it comes down to the end, you're able to not get that final bit of kilograms on your total on the third deadlift to put the pressure on the person who's currently in the lead. So, Adam was in the lead after first, but he lost the lead after seconds because he was the weaker deadlifter and was not able to gain it back on the third deadlift. So unfortunately was not able to execute there on that final deadlift. So he ends up in the silver medal. For third and fourth, it was kind of close here with Robert and Anthony. They have the same squat. Robert gets 5 kilos more on bench press. And then, he opens up 7.5 kilos more on the deadlift. So Anthony tries to take this 15 kilo jump to get the 725 because he's the heavier lifter, but able to not get the 290 on the second or third. And so they end up fourth place. Moving on to the 93s. So this one, Gavin runs away with it in first place. Gavin unfortunately had a off day. You can see, the opener, I believe, was called on depth. He comes back and gets on the second. And then the third attempt was also called on depth. So, unfortunately, he gets one squat in, much lower than his max. Still got the gold medal, still in the meet, but disappointing there. And then he opens up with the world record, 205, bumps up further to 215 on the second. Then just couldn't get the 217.5, but, gets gold again. And then at that point, maybe it's going too fast. Only just feels off because his deadlift numbers were down too, but he just cruises to the win. Makes 3 deadlifts, got the bronze medal in the deadlift, but, gets the gold overall with 70 kilo lead there. And then there was a little bit of a battle there between second and third between Matt Venna from Canada and Richmond Biden from France. So the downside for Richmond is he missed out on some kilos here. So he's the lighter lifter, which is beneficial for him. But you can see Matt on his lift squat, he makes 3 for 3 and gains 20 kilos from first to third, gets the silver overall. Versus Richmond, which squat's not necessarily his lift, opens up with 272, but gets called on depth on 282 and 282 on the third attempt as well. So he doesn't gain any kilos on over his opener. So he's just stuck there to 272. And now he's in the hole where maybe he would have gone to go 272, 282, 290 or something like that and only been 10 kilos behind because he was not squatting deep enough. He ended up being stuck with the 272 and now he's 27.5 kilos behind. Now you got to make up some ground. So stronger at the bench press. So Matt again goes 3 for 3 on the bench press. It's not his lift, but whether it's his lift or is not his lift, he's making attempts and adding kilos to his total and early on in the squat and the bench press. And then let's see what happens when it comes to deadlift, not really worrying about what other people are doing. So he gains 17.5 kilos from first to third. Richmond, here goes 177 to 185 and then misses the 190. So he gets the bronze medal in the bench press, but he only gains 7.5 kilos here compared to the 17.5 that Matt was gaining. So then we go into the deadlift, and they both actually open up with the same deadlift, with Richmond having the lower lot number goes 4. So he goes 290, and then Matt goes 290. So at that point, Richmond here is at 747, and Matt here is at 752. So he has a 5 kilo lead, and he's Matt's the heavier lifter, so he only has, really 2.5 kilo lead. So Richmond goes a 12.5 kilo jump to 302. For whatever reason, I guess Matt wanted to gain his lead up a little bit more. Goes to 305. He takes a 15 kilo jump. So at that point, Richmond is at 760. And Matt's at 767.5. So now Matt has a 7.5 kilo lead, really 5 kilos because he's the heavier lifter. So at that point, Richmond takes that 7.5 kilo lead at 310 to get to 767 to tie Matt's total on the second attempt and be beating him on body weight. So at that point, he put the pressure on Matt that he has to make a third attempt in order to hold on to that second place. So he ends up going 310, making it and getting 772.5. Now, he didn't need the 772.5. He only needed 770, so he could have done 307. The difference is if he had tried that, or if his plan was to do a 307, then he would have had to pull first. You have to do a 307, and then Richmond gets to see him do the 307. If he makes it, then Richmond could have put a change in and got the 312.5 and tried to pull for the win at that point. So in that situation, Matt didn't want to take the minimum amount needed to maintain the lead, because then he would have been pulling first. He wanted to make sure, because it's in a reasonable range, that he wanted to pull after. And so based on lot number, the lowest number he can pull, where it'd be after, was 310. So he ended up winning by 5 kilos rather than just by 2.5 kilos. So interesting battle there. And again, it's important to make attempts where you can see Matt made all 9 attempts, really added to his total on the squat and bench press, and helped him out here on deadlift, where he only needed to take a 5 kilo jump from second to third to hold on to the lead. Versus Richmond, pushed himself a little bit too much and wasn't able to collect enough kilos. Missed out on 10 kilos here, missed out on 5 kilos here, and then had to try and gain the ground here on deadlift, taking the 7.5 kilo jump, but it wasn't enough pressure to put on Matt. Had he taken something more conservative here, like gotten 5 kilos up and got 277, now Matt would have to have pulled more. Matt would have to pull 312. And then if you got 2.5 kilos here, maybe you got 187.5, then you would have put another 2.5 in your total. Then Matt would have to put 315 on for the pull to silver. So now you're putting more and more pressure on your competitor. Now they would have gone 10 kilos up, 305, 315, in order to hold on to silver. So missed out on some opportunities there. And interesting here, Alexander Carlson from U.S. Virgin Islands gets silver here in the bench press. That's good that he was able to come away with the medal. And for the deadlift, Paul from Australia over here gets the gold in the deadlift, and also bumped him up, position here. So good on him there. Let's go over, unfortunately this lifter from France, bombed out on squat. But they got, 2 benches and 1 deadlift, and at least they finished off the meet. Going into the 105s, okay, not too much of a battle between first and the rest of the pack, but there was a little bit of a battle between second and third. So, for first, Nicholas Peyrod, gets 3 squats, 3 benches, silver, and then 2 deadlifts, also silver, enough to win by 30 kilos, kind of cruises to a win. So his sister here, Clara, gets silver in the 69s. And then, the following session, I believe, Nicholas gets gold in the 105. So good little brother-sister duo right there. And then here you have the battle between Antonio from Spain and Aino from Finland. So Antonio makes 3 squats. Aino makes 2, passes on his third. So Aino gets 15 kilos from first to second. And Antonio gets 22.5 from first to third. Then we go into bench press, where Aino's a little bit stronger. So he gets 2 for 3, gets 10 kilos from first to second. Antonio's a little bit weaker, but, goes 3 for 3 and gets 12.5 kilos added on from first to third. So then we come to deadlifts, where Antonio is the big deadlifter, that's his lift. So he gets to pull afterwards. So Aino pulls 300, goes up 15. And then Antonio gets 315, goes up 17.5 kilos. So at that point, you can see here, since they both missed their third, is Antonio's up 15 kilos, and he's a lighter lifter. So he's got, the higher total after seconds and the better body weight. So at that point, Aino had to take a 17.5 kilo jump to go to, 312.5, and unfortunately was not able to get it. And at that point, Antonio had the win, and they were just kind of going for the bumping up, their gold medal in the deadlift in case, Nicholas had gone to 340. They were trying to go 342 to hold on to the gold. So in this case, again, if not sure, why he passed on third. I know here on the third, maybe the second was too aggressive. Maybe a lower opener would allow for better jumps to maybe get, 297 on the third if he only had done like 290 on the second. Not sure there. But again, here, 7.5 kilo jump on bench press from second to third. Could have maybe done 2.5 or 5 and then use that over here to not have to go up as much. Could have done, 330 or 327.5. But, Antonio makes all his squats, all his benches, and then just does whatever he needs to get into lead on the second and then hold on to that lead. Then you had another lifter here bomb out. Alexander from Ukraine bomb down squat, just passed on the bench and deadlift. And, nothing else really stands out that I can see. So we'll go to the 120s now. Well, let me see if I can try out my chat button here for Bill. For Wild Bill. There we go. Get the lift powerlifting. Bill McCarthy says 105 are out totaling the 120s is pretty cool. So you can see here, Nicholas Perrault from France, 840 kilo total. And we're going into 120s. Isaac Whistler here for U.S. Virgin Islands, switching over from USAPL, 827.5. So actually out totaled. And then actually, if you look at the IPF points for the top two here, 104 and 100, and 98 and 97. So the top four here beat out the 120 at 96. So looking at the 120s, another issue here as far as from what I saw as far as depth is Isaac Whistler gets 305 on his first and then goes up to 320, gets called on depth there, and then retakes it, goes deeper. Looks like it goes deep enough, but just couldn't come up with it all the way and lock it out. So he ends up going 1 for 3, still enough to get first because he's just that far ahead of everyone. And at that point, goes 2 for 3 on the bench press, getting the bronze medal, and then cruises 3 for 3 on deadlift, getting the silver medal and winning by, about 40 kilos. So pretty easy win for him, but, it was just the issue here with depth. Fortunately, he didn't get called on the opener. He was able to, get one in at that point, and then, if he had missed a second and third, it wasn't a big deal. But there was a battle after that. If you look at, second place is 782, third is 775, fourth is 775, and fifth is 775. So pretty interesting battle there as far as all those lifters being close, so close in total and coming down to body weight in some of the aspects, some of the weight placings. So you can see here, Mark goes 3 for 3, Ludwig goes 3 for 3, Sebastian Stanek goes 2 for 3, comes back and gets it. I'm not sure if that was depth or not. I didn't watch all the lifters from the session. And Bradley goes 3 for 3. Then you go into bench press. Mark again goes 3 for 3, gold medal bench press. So he makes all his squats, all his benches, gets as much as he can out of those lifts going into deadlift, which is really helpful. Whereas Ludwig goes 2 for 3, misses out on the third. Sebastian, again, 2 for 3, misses out on his third. And then Bradley, goes 3 for 3 and gets as much as he can. So Mark and Bradley are going 6 for 6, maximizing their total, whereas Ludwig is going 5 for 6 and Sebastian's going 4 for 6. And so then we go into the deadlifts, and Mark from Ireland's also a lighter lifter. He only weighs 110, so much lower than everyone else. So at that point, he just has to, make sure he ties the people, which at that point, you can see here, he had 292.5 on the second, which gave him a 775 total. So actually on his second attempt, he was already tied with these lifters here with 775. So at that point, he only goes up 5 more kilos to put more pressure on them. So he makes that and he gets 72.5. So now all these lifters have to get 785 to steal the silver from him because he's got body weight on all of them. So you can see here, this lifter takes the 10 kilo jump, Bradley, from 300 to 310, misses. So he was trying to go for that 785, but he misses, too far away as far as, the amount of ground he had to catch up after squat and bench press. Then this lifter, Sebastian Stanek, for some reason, Don't know why. Goes up 12.5 kilos from 300 to 312, gets it, and ends up in 775. But he does not have the body weight on Ludwig. Okay, so he doesn't, and Ludwig had the 775 on the second. So he knew that Ludwig is already at 775, and he knew that this 312.5 was going to get him fourth place, not going to get him third place. He would need 315 to get into third place and then see what Ludwig can do as far as making a third attempt. But he ended up making it, getting 775, fourth place. So then Ludwig at that point, doesn't have anyone catching him. Bradley's already in fifth. Sebastian's already in fourth. He has the bronze medal locked up, so he can go and pull for silver. So he tries the 10 kilo jump, 312 to 322.5, misses, doesn't get the 785. So not too much Louis could have done. He only missed down 2.5 kilos there, but you couldn't really have gone any lower. So he tried his best. But interesting there that Sebastian, missed out on the second squat, had to come back and get on third, so potentially had more there. And then for whatever reason, didn't even try and do the 315 to go for the bronze medal in the total. So interesting situation there as far as you don't know for these masters, sub juniors, and juniors, what coaches are there yet. If it's like the main team coach or if it's like their personal coach, and maybe they're not following the numbers as well. They're not following the body weights or anything like that. And maybe they had originally put in 312.5. Maybe they didn't know they can put in 315. And, after this lifter missed, Bradley missed 310. They could have put in the 315. For some reason, they didn't do it. So not sure what happened there. Then we go to the 120 plus. And, not much of a battle there. You have this lifter, Timur from Georgia. And he goes, 3 for 3 on squats, bronze medal, 2 for 3 on bench, fourth place, and then 2 for 3 on deadlift. Cruises to the victory, up 30 kilos. Takes a big jump here from 362.5 to 387.5, 25 kilo jump to pull 387.5. Let's see what the world record is for 120 plus juniors. Deadlift 120 plus juniors, so 385. So we only really needed 385.5. So not sure why I put in 387.5. Again, maybe the coaches don't know that you can chip the record. Maybe they didn't even know what the record was. They were just going for a pull, but they could have done 385.5. Not sure how difficult the 362 was and how close to the 387 was. Maybe the 385.5 was there, but they tried to go 387.5, missed it, but still got the gold in the deadlift and gold overall, 912.5. Then, you had a little bit of battle here between second and third. Giacomo from Italy versus Bogdan from Russia. So, Giacomo is up 15 kilos on squat. And then he's up 17.5 kilos on bench. So now he's up, 32.5 kilos. And now Bogdan has to try and make that ground up. And he has body weight on him. So he gains 15 kilos on opener. So now he's down 17.5. So, Giacomo goes up 10 and Bogdan goes up 15 to try and gain some more ground. They both make it. So Giacomo goes up 7.5. So then at that point, Bogdan goes up 22.5 because he's got to try and gain the rest of that. Unfortunately, fortunately for Bogdan, Giacomo misses. So he didn't get that 17.5 more kilos. But he wasn't able to get to 332.5, that 22.5 kilo jump to try and get the silver. So, it wasn't too close, but it was still potential there. And really what Bogdan needed was for Giacomo to miss his 300 on the second and miss it again on his third. Because at that point, he would have been at 862.5 and all he would have needed was 312. But because he got that 300, then he needed the 20 kilo added there. He needed the 332.5. And then, that was about it. This lifter from Finland didn't really challenge. And, the only other thing was Bana Milan from Hungary here gets the gold medal in the bench press. And then if we go over the team points, Russia gets 49 points, gets the team trophy. France gets second with 42. Ireland gets the bronze medal, or the bronze in the team with 36 points. And the best lifters here, Gavin Aiden from US Virgin Islands, 110 points, pretty easy win there for best lifter. Yuya Fuji from Japan, second with 105, closely behind Nicolas Peyrod from France at 104. So he lost by 1.2, and I wonder what that would have been if he made this. Potentially that 7.5 kilos would have given it to him. We can go to the IPF points calculator, put in his body weight, and then didn't like my comma. And then he was going for 847.5. 847.5. So would have given him 104.99. So he still would have been short. So that wouldn't have given it to him. Let's see what 850, 105.3. So that's what he would have needed is, 850. So he actually would have needed 342.5. So he wasn't trying to pull for best lifter. He's probably just trying to pull for the gold medal in the deadlift. Probably focused more on that rather than looking at what these other lifters were doing. So unfortunately didn't get the gold medal in the deadlift. And just short on the second best lifter. But, end up getting third best lifter, which is still good. So that covers everything as far as all the weight classes, the team awards. Trying to see if I forgot anything. Yeah, it covers everything. So as far as masters, sub-juniors, and juniors, we are done. So we had 3 days of masters. We had 3 days of sub-juniors and juniors. The sub-juniors and juniors had their banquet tonight. And tomorrow we start the open. The open's going to be 5 days. So it gets spread out more and more one platform sessions, as you can see here. The only 2 platform sessions are going to be the 83s, the 93s, the 120s, and the 120 pluses. So only 4 men's weight classes are being split off just to keep these sessions short. So for example, here, instead of putting all 23 83 kilo lifters in 2 flights on 1 platform, they're splitting it up into 2 platforms, 12 and 11, so they can finish faster. So tomorrow, Wednesday, we have another 3-session day, starting off with the open women 47 and 52s. Then the middle session, we have the men 59 and 66. And then we finish off the night session with the women 57. So if we go back to here, we can go and pull up the nominations instead of the results. Just to go over real quick of who's competing 47s and 52s. So, you got these 7 and these 9. So you got, Tiffany Chapon versus Veronica Broner, Simone Lai. And then in the 52s, you got, Naomi Alibert, Andrea Riley, and Shizuka Rico battling it out. So those should be a couple of good battles there for the podium. Then you have the men 59 and 66. So in the 59s, of course, you have the dominant Sergey Fedosenko's and the cruise to a victory. Hopefully these other lifters showed up. A lot or no lifters. A lot of lifters from Libya didn't show up, or none of them showed up. And I'm not sure if any lifters from Sri Lanka have shown up yet. So that would suck if it drops down to 2 Russian lifters and they go first and second, and there's an empty spot on the podium for the open. And then for the 66s, we get the battle of Pana versus Sergey versus Eddie. And again, I'm not sure if this lifter from Libya is going to be there or not. And then in the final session, we have that 57s. So we get Maria T from Canada battling out the 2 Brits, Joy Namani and Bobby Butters. And also in there, we got people like Anna Velomanova. So Big Bill says Sri Lanka has been missing, so not sure what happened. Sometimes lifters get nominated before they have all their things prepared as far as getting a visa, if they need a visa, getting even like, the funding from the Ministry of Sport or from the federation to get funding, or if they have to fund themselves, maybe looking into everything. So sometimes they get nominated, and sometimes the federation pays the participation fee, and then they just don't get the visa or they don't have the funding for it, and they just don't show up. So it's potential that, Sri Lanka doesn't show up, Libya doesn't show up. I believe even before the final nominations or going into final nomination, Algeria was out and Iran was out. So some of these countries are dropping off. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe they show up just for the Open and they miss down the Masters, so juniors, or maybe they're not coming out at all. And that's going to hurt some of these weight classes like the 59s and the 66s, losing out on one lifter. The other weight classes are deep enough that it won't, mess them up too much. So that is the plan going forward. Big Bill also says Gavin Aiden out total the 105s and the 120s. Let's go check that out real quick, and then we will shut this live stream down. I mean, that's why Gavin won the best lifter as well. In the 93s, he totals 842.5, which is 2.5 kilos more than Nicholas, and quite a bit more than Isaac over here. So good day for not a good day as far as Gavin probably thinks it's disappointing for him, but he still got gold in squat, gold in bench, world record in bench, world title, and best lifter. So that covers, I believe, everything as far as what happened today. Plan going forward. Like I said, as long as everything as far as my timing is available, we'll do this again tomorrow, going over the day one of the Open recap. So I'll catch you all tomorrow.